This is the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network.
We're gonna carry on and plan the sequel, because let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.
And welcome back to Microqueers. It's your bi-weekly queer horror short roundup, and I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're doing another little bizarre short this week, Joe.
We sure know how to pick them, don't we?
No, I mean, it's honestly, I actually really enjoyed this one quite a bit. I definitely understood it more than the last one, like without having to do a little bit of extra research. But yeah, so we're talking John Clayton's Schism, everybody, and it is an animated queer thing.
Yes, as they say on YouTube, it is a surreal short. So, folks, if you haven't had the chance to check it out, Schism follows Kevin, a man who has trouble being physical with his boyfriend publicly. Kevin is riddled with intimacy issues that propel him to a grotesque world where his alter ego is constantly attempting to free him. Straight or gay, Schism is the story about the fear of commitment in relationships.
See, I had actually read the last bit of that only, so about the fear of commitment in relationships, and so I was like, okay, that makes sense. But, like, I didn't read the part about, you know, the public displays of affection. And so watching it, I was like, oh, there's so many good... Okay, so let's get into this. So
let's do it, yeah.
This story takes place in two different locations, right? We've got the real world, and then we've got...
It's inside his brain.
Yeah, kind of.
No,
but it's like very trippy animation style, especially once we're inside the brain. It's very like, I mean, I feel like you're on acid watching some of this stuff happen.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous. It definitely reminds me of anime style.
It does, but then the way it kind of personifies like thoughts. I know like it's not the same, but like, and we've talked about this before. But I've been watching Big Mouth recently on Netflix, and they personify a lot of mental illnesses like anxiety and depression and stuff via like anthropomorphic like creatures and monsters and stuff. And so this one, I think for me, it was when they were walking around. The couple was walking around public, and the brain thing around him, like all the eyes appeared, and it's just like, I thought that was a really, really cool way to illustrate like how stressful that can be for some. Because honestly, as queer folks, like that is something, especially depending on where you live, that you kind of have to think about on a daily basis.
Yep.
That's something that always people like forget, you know, like if you've never had to worry about like publicly showing affection towards your partner, it's a terrible experience.
Yeah, and what I love is that in the short, this happens after we've gotten...
A sex
I mean,
scene?
again, we're talking about animated sex, yes, but like it's not shying away from what it's trying to do, and you're like, okay, so these are two gentlemen who clearly find each other physically appealing, they have a good connection, like you can see them looking in each other's eyes, and like they seem very satisfied, and then immediately after that, they're out in public, and oh, okay, so this is the public-private divide. And it's so hard sometimes. Like, I don't know about you, but even in a very liberal, progressive location, I don't always feel comfortable with PDAs. Like, I don't want to hold hands in public because I don't want to invite that kind of trigger from other people.
No, I mean, I understand. I mean, I don't want to say it's a little bit different for me, but like my husband and I are not very like physically affectionate. Like, I mean, you know, we are like when like we're being intimate with each other, but like we're not really the kind of couple that we're not really the kind of couple that like, oh, if we're just sitting on the couch watching TV, we're gonna like, oh, we're gonna lean into each other, or we're gonna like just hold hands. We're not super touchy-feely like that outside of the bedroom.
Right.
That being said, I mean, there have been times where, you know, we've had instances like that. And granted, we also live in a very liberal area, which is Austin, Texas. But, you know, we've been in a town about 60 miles outside of Austin, and it was a sports/karaoke bar. And I remember I leaned in to kiss him, and my husband, like, pulled away because he was, like, not here. Because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like, if you're in a small town, you don't know who's around or who's going to want to kill you for showing that you're queer in public.
Yeah. I was looking at some of the comments on this short, and one of the users did, like, almost a second by second rundown of like, this is what happens, this is what it means. And I didn't have the time or the inclination to go through it in quite that great a detail. But one part that really stuck out was the emphasis on the lockers that are like implanted in the brain kind of sequences. And at one point when Kevin finally frees himself, the lockers start to float up in the air. But previous to that, there's eyes inside the lockers.
There's eyes everywhere.
There's eyes everywhere. There's eyes. There's tongues.
What looks to me like Beetlejuice sandworms that are inside his brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's a great visualization. Like, the lockers for me are very much not just the voyeurism, but also, to me, it connotes a traumatic experience that happened in high school where you either got locked inside the locker or you feel like you were never free from those kinds of eyes. And
that's a little tropey, right? I feel like in a lot of like 80s movies, like the nerd or the outcast gets put in the locker. But that I didn't even pick up on that. And that was something where, I only watched this short once, but that's something where there's a lot going on visually and symbolically, and so it's not possible to pick up on everything on one viewing, but I really like that reading of it. I was very much into the brainstem, like the Matrixy type plugin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I read it just as like your brain controls you. Like, even though like you want to like let loose and be free, like you're whatever history or trauma or whatever you have is constantly tethered to you and will not let you go and won't let you do certain things.
Yeah, I was interested because initially I thought it was going to be that he was struggling to let go of a past relationship, like he was tethered to something. And then I realized over time that it was like, oh, it's actually a manifestation of his own issues. And I loved the symbolism of like the bust of the boyfriend with the chains and the lock, and he's slowly breaking it down.
But see, that to me was also like, okay, and again, it's a generalization, but like I feel like in the cisgender gay male community specifically, it's very much not super monogamous. It's not, which is fine, but it's also like there's not a lot of commitment. And granted, obviously that exists. You and I are both we're both married, right. But generally speaking, like it's very much a love is free. Like don't get locked down in a relationship. And so that to me is what that statue represented with the chains and locks around it. So like if he touched it, if he went to it, he was just going to be locked down and suffocated. He perceived that he was going to be.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I definitely took it as trying to free the bust would allow him to have overcome his issues with public displays of affection and actually committing himself to this person. And that's what he's trying to get to. So it's like each individual action gets him one step closer to acceptance.
I don't disagree with you. I just, I think to me what was kind of like feeding into my perception, like that particular reading of it, was when they merge faces. I thought we were going to get a much less happy ending with it because, again, I'm watching this thinking, okay, the bust is symbolic of being trapped in, like, this one relationship.
Okay.
And so merging was, like, again, his worst fear came true, where it's, like, in a group of friends, if someone starts, like, dating someone, and then it's like, oh, it's always, like, Trace and Andrew. It's never just Trace.
It's a we now. It's never an I.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's... Again, depending on how you're looking at it, if you're looking at this like from a queer specific angle, like and like with the eyes and stuff, like I can get that one reading, but then the other one I see is like, again, when you're talking about a fear of commitment, it's like, okay, well, why are people afraid of commitment?
Mm-hmm.
At least internally, not even based on external stimuli.
Right.
But then, of course, with the ending we get with the hand-holding fetus, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I took that to be like we're moving into a new phase of the relationship. Obviously, this is a very, very phallic imagery, so it kind of looks like somewhere between a penis and a mushroom, but you've got, like, pulsing red veins going up the stem.
A lot of sounds, too. Yeah, it's very intense sound design on this.
Yeah.
I mean, it really transports you into the world of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those things where I think animation has the capacity to do things that live action, like, can you imagine this as live action? It would probably be extremely disgusting. Whereas here you're like, oh, it's beautiful and uncomfortable and uncanny, but it's really easy to get lost in the visuals as well, like to really just sink into them.
Yeah, and it's also like a lot of body horror, right? Because we're literally inside his brain. It was reminding me a lot of, have you ever seen Akira?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Tetsuo's transformation in Akira, and it's just like, ugh. Like, it's very uncomfortable, it's very odd. Like, I feel like you're, like, invading... I mean, the first shot we get in this short is of his brain, and there's, like, hair on it.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, like spikes or something.
It's icky and visceral, and I kind of love how just the visual style alone can connote so many emotions and discomfort.
Yeah.
We've had 2 back-to-back weeks now, we've had 2 back-to-back microqueer entries
Right.
where they're just very sensory. Like, I'm feeling a lot of things from these shorts.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, this one was an easier pill for me to swallow than Flesh was a couple weeks ago, because it's definitely a more straightforward narrative.
Yeah.
And I felt like, for me, the metaphor was easier for me to grasp onto.
Sure. Yeah.
But that could also be because I'm a gay man and I'm not a queer person of color, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But
and also you hate punk, so
I really hate
was
punk.
an immediate barrier.
Don't hate. It's just not for me. Not my cup of tea.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I do hate it kind of, though. I'm a rule follower at heart. But yeah, I'm trying to think. The only other thing, this is not even thematic at all, but the shower sex really perturbed me because I don't know about you.
Oh.
I don't like shower sex. Water dries everything out, and it is not my cup of tea. Specifically when it comes to anal sex, I do not understand shower sex.
Right. I was going to say there's plenty of fun to be had in the shower, but
yeah.
wouldn't go that route for
okay.
a shower sex scene.
It depends on the size of the shower, because like, okay, fucking it dries everything out, but like I've also been like where you're like rimming someone in the shower and the water's just running off their back into your face, and you're like smothering on the hole while also getting like a face full of white. It's just too much. I don't need the water. It's
a lot, yeah. Sometimes you need that rainforest shower, man, so you can just get around it. I just want to get cold sometimes.
Oh.
I'm trying to do things that I'm like, I just need a little hit of the water, because if not, I'm going to get cold.
I don't have a big shower, so it's basically one of those like bathtub shower duel things. So like you have to like switch places with your partner. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to be under the water now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be under the water now.
Also, I'm sorry for your small size.
Yeah,
shower.
no, it's not. It's terrible. I would need a big shower.
Yeah. You're a thirsty queen. You love a big shower.
I get what you're trying to say, and I'm not going to feed into it.
Oh, you never indulge me. It's no fun.
But yeah, I mean, I did really like this, and I did see, so this is the third of 3 animated films that Clayton did for his final year at university, so I'm assuming he's Canadian or European because he's saying university.
I think he lives in the US now, but yeah, the language is definitely of the Commonwealth.
Yes. Well, he said that he spent the most time working on this, and it was continuously changing the animation, plot points changing almost weekly. So this was definitely something that evolved as he was doing it, which I think is even fascinating that it came out as streamlined as it does.
It really all came together then.
I mean, it's an 8-minute shorts. I mean, like, but again, with animation, there's like, I don't want to say there's so much more work involved, but it's a much different type of work than if you're doing live action.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. So, would you watch a longer version of this?
I would, but I don't know if I would make it feature length or if I would want like, I don't know, like a 30-minute series, but maybe tackling like different characters and different aspects of anxiety or like I guess really mental illness, and like kind of see how those are personified per se in the imagery of the brain.
Right. Oh, that is fascinating. Yeah, I could see this as a web series where you maybe give each character, each mental illness or condition 8 minutes, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe that would work. I mean, again, I could have watched a longer version of this. Yeah, if we wanted to like spend more time in that. I mean, again, like I wouldn't watch a 90. I mean, I say I wouldn't watch a 90-minute version of this. Like that's, I don't know if it's good. I would watch it.
There we go. Yeah, it's hard to imagine what this would look like at more than 20 or 30 minutes, right?
Right, but I also like if it was live action, like and like the sets of the brain were all done like practically. Ooh. Could you imagine how interesting like that would look?
I'm picturing, kind of like you said, early Tim Burton Beetlejuice era, right?
Yeah. Oh, even stop motion. Like, but again, that's also more work.
More work, but also fucking horrifying. Can you imagine this as stop motion? You would be shitting your pants.
I would be able to watch it. I couldn't do it. It's not for me.
There we go.
But what about you? I guess you're just going to the web series.
I think so. Yeah, I had the initial same impression as you, where maybe like a 20 or a 30-minute version. But I do think seeing different kinds of people or different kind of ailments would actually keep this feeling fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. Well, listeners, let us know what you thought of Schism. Again, this is a bit more abstract than what we've covered in the past, so I think it's going to spark a lot of conversation. Maybe even, I mean, again, I think all of us can relate to this in some shape, way, or form as queer folks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let us know. And until next time, we can cross out Schism.
Yes, and cross out microqueers.
Hello, I'm Shelby Scott, the host of Scare You to Sleep, a podcast where I tell you spooky bedtime stories full of creepy sound effects and music that is soothing yet unsettling to help immerse you into a world of horror. This is a show for those of us who have realized horror can be a strange but relaxing escape from reality. Speaking of escapes, sometimes I lead you through guided nightmares, like a guided meditation, but instead of flowery meadows, I take you on a journey through your own personal nightmare. So come get lost in the terror with me. Listen to Scare You to Sleep wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm. Sweet screams.